Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. This is, as far as I know, this is going to be episode number 6, and today's date is July 3rd, the day before Independence Day, and big shout out to my baby boy. He turned 2 yesterday, and man, he's a little monster. I'm really proud of him, happy to have him as a part of my life. He's a big part of my life. So welcome friends and family and hopefully newcomers. Welcome to the podcast. This is the Electrify Your Mind podcast with Benjamin Wan, and I'm your host, Benjamin Wan. Today's episode is going to be about communication. And what brought this about was several talks that I had that I found interesting, and a lot of events that are going on in the world, and plenty of situations that kind of have been happening lately and in the past that just kind of makes me wonder about where the roots of communication and then where communication might be going. So, like I said, this is episode 6. I may have to double check that. I'm pretty sure it's episode 6, and this one is called communication. So, let's break down communication. Like, what? First of all, if you're hearing me, I'm communicating to you through this microphone and through the internet and wherever you are. I hope it's finding you well. And I'm glad you've chosen to come and listen, and hopefully in the future we can communicate about what you think about, my ideas, what kind of ideas you have, and, possibilities in the world, whatever's going on. I'm interested in it all. Like I've said before, I'm a freaking scientist, and I love asking questions. I love learning about things I didn't know, and learning about a little bit of everything. So I always have these ideas that pop in my head, and communication makes me think, like I'm having trouble even starting here. Like, I'm having trouble presenting the idea, and that's all I do when I think about these episodes, is I'm sitting around and I'm going, okay, what's the next topic? How do I communicate it? What can I cover? Like, how am I going to present it to the world? And, is it even worth hearing? So, I mean, let's keep things basic here. That word right there, past couple of episodes, I've talked to my quote-unquote consultant. Anyway, apparently I say basically too much, and I was like, "Oh, you're full of crap." Like, it kind of got my nerves. Just kind of like, say basically too much. And I was like, no, I don't. I'm good. I wanted to say something like, or I did. I was like, well, basically, if you have anything to say to me, you gotta basically hold up and first basically kiss my ass, because basically that's what I think about what you have to say. And I kind of just left it at that. We joked around, went back and forth. There was a little banter going on, and since then I went back and listened to the episode, and of course now I think I've said basically too much, and I had to think about it. I was like, okay, what's going on in my brain when I start saying basically? And I've gone over a couple of the other episodes, and yeah, I do say basically a lot, and even in conversation when I'm talking to people, I say basically. And I think two things happen when I say it. I'm saying the big one, the major one that happens when I start talking about critical thinking or critically thinking or speaking about a subject, I start saying basically, and in those types of times, I'm saying basically as a compact, easy to consume bit of information. And I'm going to come back to that idea too, because that's a big part of communication. It's conveying your ideas to other people. It's like, all right, it's your interaction with the world on the most basic level. You're communicating to the world, and even as a baby, it's how you convey what's going on too. Baby cries, they're all automatically communicating with the world, and nobody wants to hear the crying. They're communicating to us something's wrong, and we do something about it. And let's see here. So when I'm speaking critically, and there's terms popping in my head that sometimes I use, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm considering my audience I would say to an extreme amount, and going, well, I'm not going to bore them with the details. I'm just going to give them the cliff notes. I'm going to give them the little bits of information, the basics of it. And I'm saying basically this is what I'm thinking. And then there are a lot of other times, which I think happens even more in this podcast, because I'm constantly, I'm out here in the dark, just me and a microphone, and there's no back and forth between people. So I hit these points where I'm saying, all right, basically, like this is me breaking down and going, basically this is what I'm saying. There's a point in time. This is the other situation. There's a point in time where I don't have the words. I just don't have the words. And maybe that's more the complaint of what I've heard from, well, it's my cousin. I'm always talking back and forth about each other's podcasts, and about how, we'll listen to it and we'll give each other shit about it. We'll, say, hey, you could do this better. Hey, it's not all shit talk. It's a little constructive criticism, I guess, after you've said enough shit talk, after you've talked enough shit. So there you go. I was told through my communications with you guys and with him and with the world, I said basically too much. So I had to take a step back, think about it, and that's what I've come up with. Is there's times where I'm compacting my information, just oversimplifying, and I'm using the word basically to say this is the base. I'm setting you up and saying basically this is what I'm thinking. And then other times where I just don't have the words and I say basically, and then I say a simple sentence where on the level that I'm thinking or the level that I want to convey, I don't have the words for it. I don't have the ability to communicate. And that's what we're here for. That's what this episode is right now. What I want to talk about is where language is going, and maybe theory on how it's here. And so just like that, when I don't have the words, or when I'm talking about a very big subject, and maybe you want to cut down the big story and you're just trying to get something out, it takes different kinds of communication. And what I find interesting when I start thinking about it is, like I said about the baby, you think, what the hell is communication? What is it when we speak? to each other, is when we're speaking to the world, when animals are communicating. Like, I was just, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was smoking or just, regular, you know, my mind wandering, which it does often throughout the day, and I start thinking about randomness. And I was thinking, I wonder comparatively between, like, I was riding my bike to work, and I was thinking about a dog barking at me. And, get the gist. This animal's communicating to you, hey, what are you doing in my neighborhood? Stay away from my house. And I understood it. I've been around dogs long enough that, I know how they communicate, or how they're trying to, or shit, there's assumptions that we have of them communicating. Now that brings up an interesting point. Just a side thing is that, say you were dropped in a native country, you'd have to another country, and you have to communicate on a basic level, and you need things. Everybody needs things, and there's a lot of stuff that we need in common, and we all have to communicate about it and to each other's, get points from one place to another and get what we need, which takes us back to the baby, begging, asking, hey, clean my diaper, hey, I'm hungry, hey, is something bothering me? And I started thinking about it. I'm like, I was riding my bike, the dog's barking at me, and I started thinking, it's been a long, like there's one major subject that's been popping in my head a lot lately, and it's just the state of things, like how bad the planet is right now, like how, we're, like, I like to recycle, and I feel when I do it, I feel like I'm doing something about it, like just a little small part that I'm adding to it, and it bothers me when I can't recycle now, but like, that's a basic kind of thing. And it's interesting to think about. So on that level, bouncing off of that, I was thinking, how are the animals taking it? How are the animals, interacting with this world that we're basically destroying? What would they say if they could communicate to us? Like, if it was more than just an inference by barking, like, hey, dog starts barking, you already know, watch this dog watch you. It's community, telling you, hey, what are you doing? I'm here. Stay away from my family. I'll fucking kill you. Like, dog's going off, barking at me. And, when I ride my bike, my mind usually wanders. Sometimes it's like I don't even remember the trip. Like, I know the trip, the routes that I'm taking, but sometimes I'm so spaced out, I'm listening to music and I'm thinking about stuff, and a subject that's been popping in my head a lot lately is, the state of things, how the world's happening. And in that instance, I heard the dog bark, and I started thinking, man, how are animals handling this? And then I was like, what if they could tell us how they felt about it? And then my mind went on this other tangent and started thinking, I wonder, like, I was listening to videos and audio about implants. The last episode was about artificial intelligence, and there's a cat dying outside, so I was thinking artificial intelligence, and some friends came by, and I didn't talk about one of the major subjects I wanted to talk about was implants. And in the implant world, the history of it, there's, like, DARPA, they've put implants into animals and they've controlled them, and then we have ways of scanning brains now, and we can see when we take certain actions what parts of the brain light up. And my thought when the dog barked at me was, all right, if we put electrodes on a dog's brain and then we let it do its regular thing, and then we monitored the brain, like had a map of the brain and saw where things post. What will we see when a dog barks? And I started thinking, okay, one, just vocalizing, using the muscles on the most primal level, the nerves it takes, the muscles, the electrical pulses, the brain, to move the muscles. That part of the brain will be lighting up, powering that part. And then, all right, then the dog is conveying something to us. So there's a thought to it, a feeling to it, whatever it is that a dog experiences. Like when I'm around, I don't know about you, but when I'm around dogs, like you look in their eyes, you spend time with them, you watch what they do, how they interact with stuff. You can say, hey, this dog's smart, goddamn, this dog is fucking dumb. But you spend enough time with them, you start seeing that, these animals, they're intelligent, they have their feelings, they're sad, they're happy, they're angry. You watch them bite another dog, they're pissed off. I was like, get the fuck away from me. So what I started thinking was, okay, so there's the muscle the electrical responses in the brain moving the muscles. Then there's the idea, the feeling that these animals have that's also connected to what they're communicating. And then there's let's say, I'm going to say basically right now by saying I'm not going to say basically, but there's force, there's what's the word the word I'm looking for is your purpose, I guess. The reason you're actually vocalizing, like, hey, stay away from my house, you fucking dug-billed platypus. And so the dog's thinking, okay, hey, there's anger or aggression, hey, I'm gonna bark at this person. They see me, hey, what the fuck, he's on a bike, whatever the fuck that is. He doesn't have a word for bike, but he's like, what the fuck is this guy's doing in my neighborhood? He's driving by my house, my family's here, get the fuck away from me. So aggression, that part of the brain lights up. Then he vocalizes, he's got the muscles vocalizing, that part of the brain lights up. Bark comes out, and there's a purpose. He's thinking, I'm gonna warn this person and get away. So there's the thought, the purpose, the aggression, the muscles, all lighted up the brain. And I thought for a second, if we compared an aggressive conversation, let's say, between a human and another human, and then took a dog's brain while they're vocalizing, barking at the same human, let's say, or one of the humans, what part of the brains will light up? And do our brains even compare in the same, let's say, do they compare in the same league? Like, my understanding of brains is limited, but I have studied so many things about it, and you always hear, like, common knowledge, I'm going to say basically, people have an idea of how the brain works. And it's common knowledge that, maybe not that how the brain works, but it's common knowledge that all animals have different sized brains. We have different skulls, we have different genetics. And I wonder, when I'm riding my bike randomly getting barked at, I wondered comparatively between a dog's brain and a human's brain, how close are they together? And if we had the way, like, I'd rather not put electrodes in a freaking, that was the next thought that came up, was I don't want to put electrodes in a poor little dog's brain or any animal, but maybe, with today's technology, we can scan and monitor where these electrical signals are popping off in the brain. And I'm wondering like right now I'm recording. You can't see me, but I'm holding my hands out like I'm holding two brains, and I'm like, all right, dog's brain's a little smaller. But if we held them up, over each other's, or examine the anatomy of a human's brain versus a dog's brain, how much different would it be? And if we scanned those brains while a person and a dog are aggressively communicating, would similar areas light up? And if that's the case, my question came up, would we be able to use that information to actually communicate for a dog? And I was thinking, all right, so maybe not a dog, but maybe a monkey, maybe a great ape. Would we be able to infer or decode similar signals between brains, humans and any animal in the animal kingdom? Could we deduce words or feelings or anything beyond just what we know when a dog starts barking at you or growling at you or wagging its tail? Would we be able to scan the brain and get something out of that, and one day hear how animals think and feel, and they start expressing themselves? Like the other day, another bike ride, I was thinking, I think I was hearing a story on another conversation about it was orangutans fishing, and I started thinking about it. It was an interesting subject. It was brought up, presented to me, and I thought about it for myself. I'm like, okay, wow, imagine that. The great apes are using tools, even maybe even apes that weren't known to use tools are using tools now. Once humans were made, it wasn't like evolution stopped. Like across the world, all these animals, they're in this environment with us. They're seeing the new animal, relatively new, and they're observing us and learning from us. And I started thinking on one of these bike rides, what if we had taken, and again, this whole science premise, like the electrodes on the dog, science can be ugly, but it really can be. But theoretically, let's stick with theoretical, because I don't want to take baby apes away. But I was like, what if across the world we tried to teach just the exact same way we teach our children, our babies? If we tried to teach like that to animals, and it's like, okay, we have taught, there's performing whales, horrible, SeaWorld, whatever, they have animals do things with them. There's, they're, communicate. I've seen it in person, and it's crazy to imagine watching these giant, emotional being animals, these obviously alive, and they have depth in their character and their feeling, and there's something in there, but we don't understand them completely. There's what we can, okay, that's what this animal is trying to show me, or we can speculate, we can do our best, and they can do their best. But there's proof that we can teach, dolphins, intelligent animals, great apes. There's sign language. The videos of communication there, like, it's incredible. I just wonder if somewhere down the road we can do even better than that. And like, being a scientist myself, like, just presenting that question, I automatically say yes, absolutely, no doubt. But when it's always that's these days what I've seen, absolutely can't believe sometimes. these days, seeing what I've seen, more and more I'm starting to believe, hell, anything is possible. Like, I've grown up feeling that way, but damn. Like I've said in the previous episode, technology is rapidly and steadily increasing speed and development. And when I think, will we ever be able to communicate better with animals? Like, absolutely. Just when? So those were thoughts that kind of led to this episode. I was riding my bike and I was thinking about communication, and the other day I was on Netflix and I was watching I think it was called Beats. It was with Anthony Anderson and this other young actor that I've never seen before. But they, it was about a kid who knew how to, he was traumatized and he knew how to make music. Like, he was really great at music. I'm really oversimplifying. Let's say basically this is what that movie's about. But I watched it, and like, this is, when I thought about this earlier, I was like, this is going to get me to raise, doubt and say, no, I'm gonna be my own naysayer. But the impression I got of it was like, all right, this is gonna be a black film, and I know that sounds awful, but it was like every single character was a black guy and a black woman, and then the only white people that I really saw in the movie were the cops. It's like, all right, this is an all black film. And I was like, okay, like, and then there's my naysayer. I'm like, how can you label a movie anything these days? Like, not even these days, but movies in general. Like, it's like saying a romance movie or a chick flick. I always had trouble with that expression because it was freaking. I love chick flicks, but it's like, oh, those are for chicks. It's like, well, it's a movie. And if it's a good movie, whether it's about romance or drama or action or whatever, it's just a movie to me. But anyway, the real point of me bringing up this Beats movie was every single time Anthony Anderson talked to another guy, they were like, they're all talking in slang. They're like, yeah, whatever. Like, they were talking, like, I understood it. I understood a lot of it, maybe not all of it, but I understood a lot of it, and it was like, okay, I'm picking up on these little notes of communication, and they're practically speaking another language, and there's like, oh, I understand what he's saying, oh, I don't understand what he's saying, but, in the community, the black community, that's a lot of them will understand. Maybe it's the same situation with there, or maybe they don't. Like, it was interesting to watch. Like, yeah, I was watching it as a movie, but at the same time, I kind of took a step back and I was listening to this form of communication, this language that they were carrying on, and I was like, man, it's interesting because they were using terms that I would say are relatively new to what I've heard, in the past. Like, I've been around since '86, like, long time, and to some not even that long, but it's like I've been here a long time, since the 80s, and it's like, okay, I've heard this kind of communication before, and then I hear it now, and it's like, wow, you hear there's a great evolution in it, and there's shorter and shorter terms, which is a big part of why I'm bringing up communication and evolution and progress and the advancement in technology. It's I find this terribly interesting. But to the movie, I was watching them speak and I was listening, and I'm like, wow, there's a whole other language going on that, a lot of this I don't understand, but I'm inferring what they're talking about. And it was funny too, because I was watching it, and usually when I'm watching movies, it's like ridiculously early right now. Like, this is supposed to be my nap time. Like, this is my sleep time right now. I'm supposed to be like I work overnight, so I gotta sleep during the day, and when I get home, like this is when I should be sleeping, but like a lot of times I'll be up watching shows. And I was watching that show, and it was incredible. So, oh, okay, that was the point. Usually I watch it in the morning, and I gotta be quiet. Like, I got all these neighbors, and history has shown me in this community, this apartment complex, that I even signed in the contract when I signed up for this place when I leased it. It was like there's absolutely no tolerance for noise at all. It kind of was a red flag when I saw it. Like, hold up, let me read that again. No noise at all. And I'm used to living in apartments since I first came to Tucson, and it was like, fuck. I was a wild animal. I was noise all the time. I got complaints, and I've been to, parties at each other's apartments when I lived around a bunch of people, and, they got damn near got evicted. So when I get home in the morning, I'm watching these movies, they're usually turned all the way down, and a lot of times they're so low I gotta put on closed captioning. So what was interesting when I was watching this freaking movie was it was kind of funny. It was kind of like the white people translator almost. It was funny because Anthony Anderson would be saying whatever the hell he's saying, and the closed captioning was translating it as it went. Like I was starting to crack up. I was like, this is funny. This is a funny little situation. Like, yeah, I'm watching the movie, but in the back of my mind, I'm playing out this whole all right, there's another language going on, and then people who are deaf, they're not hearing it. They're going to be reading it. They're reading it, and I'm sitting here listening to the conversation, and I'm reading the conversation, and there's two things going on. It's a whole other language from a community that I don't belong to entirely, and it's a they're speaking a language, and then there's the closed captioning language that is translating it for, and it was ridiculous translations. Like, ooh, I can't give you a great example. If you got Netflix, check it out, watch the movie, and maybe give it a shot for a couple of minutes when they're talking slang or whatever, and put the closed captioning on. It was funny. So he'd say like, oh, all right, this is a stupid example. It'd be like, oh, something, something, my crib. And then I'm like, oh, his house. Like, it was, they didn't even write crib on the captioning. They didn't say what he said. Like the actual writing of the movie was the word crib, and closed captioning automatically called it house. And I was just like, what the fuck? I was cracking up watching it. And, so it's kind of what brought me here to start posing these questions, was the advancement of language. Like I had said, the language that I had heard of before in the black community, and they had their way of talking. It's we're all here in the grand melting pot of the U.S., and it's like languages are influencing each other just within the English language, and these guys, they were speaking their own language. So there's that advancement from back when the times when I was born in the 80s to now watching Netflix in 2019, and then from, I don't know how old closed captioning is, but it's arrived here too at this same point in time, and the two languages didn't add up. Even the ones that I understood, and most people would understand what they were saying, but the closed captioning would be telling people who are deaf a whole other language. And I'm like, okay, so who are they thinking? So I was thinking, this is where my mind goes, is who are they thinking their general let's say audience of the deaf, or anybody who wants to have closed captioning on, like, I guess they're assuming it's going to be a group of people that don't use the word cribs at all and would rather understand it as house. And I just so there's that example, the progress of language, and it was funny to watch that play out. And it makes me think about, on the grand scale, like we're in an age of technology, like not back in the day, not that long ago as far as it is relative to our human timeline, but not too long ago, people, you had that little crank phone, or they had telegraphs, they're using Morse code. And then now we're freaking shooting texts and emojis. Like emojis is its own language now. And it's funny. Hell, I even want to say crazy. It's crazy how, I guess, alright, so symbols have always been part of the language. I mean, the English language, the alphabet, those are symbols. And to us, they mean something because we were taught it. And, it's funny to think about the progress, the change, and like how progressed are we, that, all right, so emojis, they're practically the modern day, symbol language. And who would have known, like, so much money, and like it's a whole business in itself to produce emojis that everybody wants to use, and it's a big business, and it's become that. Like, that's another aspect that I want to talk about in another episode, is capitalism. Like how crazy that, us as a nation, the United States, is a capitalist society, and along with a lot of other parts of the world, a lot of stuff is driven by capitalism and money. And it worries me that, like, yes, people want to compete for that money, and it causes a lot of really, competition causes a lot of really great innovation. It changes the world, and that's kind of part of what's forcing our evolution to start, skyrocketing, how fast things are changing. And I just think it's crazy that capitalism kind of, there's this dark side of it, that it kind of decides what lives and what dies as far as innovation goes. And hell, like, it decided that emojis could be big business. Who would have known? It's 2019, and who would have known that that would have been the direction we were going? And the classic question that comes up is it going in a positive direction? And really, can you put positive and negative to that? Can you put that kind of judgment or aspect to it? Can you add that to it? Can you ask that question? Is it positive or negative? Is it the direction that, our capitalist society going? Is it positive or negative? And a lot of times I think if it's always driven by money, it's not all that positive. Like, people get crushed in the competition, and things don't, like the pharmaceutical company, it is so huge and so powerful and so full of money. And I think a lot of times, health-wise, like let's say quality of life, that all gets thrown to the side. And that was the original point. We are going out and treating our people and trying to keep them healthy, but because pharmaceuticals is so much big business and big money, it's hell, you see a pill commercial, it's like, oh, this makes you shit your lungs out your ass. It makes you see demons on everybody's faces. This could give you a heart attack. This, a side effect is death. And that's scary. That's like a dark it's the dark evolution of pharmaceuticals. And I mean, I know this is really, this is like a complete tangent I've taken us on, but hell, it's all intertwined. And that's kind of what I'm always going to be talking about here. So, emojis have become big business. And I guess the direction I want to take this right now is that I think of it as, I sometimes wonder if, or I've wondered in the past, that is language for us. Now, I'm not saying machines, because that's going to be another part of this, but is language for us going to get so damn simple that we're not even going to recognize it? Like, we'll use in a text, we'll use symbols like emojis, we'll use classic, I don't know if that's the right term, classic words of the English language, and then at the same time we're going to use chopped up pieces of it where we're shortening it, or using acronyms to say what we're communicating, what we're feeling, what we want. We're reaching out, and I sometimes wonder, like, are we doing this to get the point across faster? Like, is this an inevitable evolution of language? Are we chopping up our language, or the English language at that? Like, everything's going on in the world in its own progress, but I'm just talking, let's keep things simple and basic here. I'm talking about the English language right now. Our language in general. Is it going to become so oversimplified, and is the point making absorption of information quicker and easier and faster? I heard I don't know if you guys are following Elon Musk. He's an interesting person. I heard him give a speech, and he was talking about one of the programs that he's working on, and it was the one that scans the brain, and I think it's very close to a movie called Transcendence with Mr. Pirate Man, Jack Sparrow, Johnny Depp, and so he's working on this program, and he started talking about how fast technology is going to advance, and he started talking about how the next big step would be having implants or whatever that we're going to use to communicate with computers. And he said the big problem that he can see is bandwidth, and by that he meant the amount of time and the use of information to convey a point. Like, it's like he's talking about the way of measuring these little bits that we chop our information into and communicate it. And the other part of it is, what does the person you're speaking to do with the information you give them? Do you understand the emojis and the symbols that are being put in your text? You hope you do. And Elon Musk was saying that the next step in the evolution is putting computers in our brain, and what he's talking about is increasing the bandwidth, how quickly the information gets transferred, where today you have a touch screen phone, and you're using your fingers, you're thinking about the process, you're using your fingers to go where you're trying to go, and like, oh, I'm going to Google that. Everybody says, I'm going to Google that. So you're looking up information, and it takes you so long to do it. Google gives you answers like that, milliseconds of a millisecond, like instantly. Almost damn near instantly, point something seconds. And the idea that I got from him, my understanding of what he was saying was that a measurement of all that, like say you're using your touch screen phone to get information and you're Googling something. From the moment you had the thought, I want to know this, to the moment you get the information you want, is a measurement of the bandwidth of that information, the communication we have with our phone. And he was saying the next step would be to scan the brain and have implants, and then you'll just think, Google it, and then you'll have your information. You'll be, wired to the whole network. And so in line of thinking about bandwidth, I wonder if our language is becoming oversimplified or just simplified to the point, like the inevitable evolution of trying to convey messages to each other, to communicate. And then I start thinking about computers, like from the very beginning computers were on a whole other level, and maybe it's simplified like that. You always hear of ones and zeros. If I were to look at a lines of ones of zeros, I wouldn't know what I'm looking at. But another computer sitting that receives those ones and zeros, they know what's going on. So in my mind, thinking of the direction we're going, we're computers from the very beginning, already way more advanced in communication than we were, because they'd have a group of ones and zeros, and that could be, the whole entire history of or let's say a volume of encyclopedias, a small grouping of ones and zeros, and then we would have to open a giant book with 500 pages in it. So what I'm wondering, here's some more questions. Is our breaking down the language using emojis, using acronyms, using slang, is that our inevitable evolution of our language to a point that it can be absorbed quicker and faster than say a phone call where you have to say a whole sentence? You got to stop what you're doing using whole sentences. I don't know about you, but I just touched the mic. I don't know about you, but I touched my chest like I was like, I don't know about you, but me, I like texting over calling. Like it's almost old school using a phone, because you start talking, you got to stop what you're doing. Like say if you're watching a movie, you got to stop the movie, you got to read whatever you got to hear, and you speak and you question and you answer. And then in a text, you just send out a message, and when you're ready to read it again, you read it, you get a response back, or when you're ready, you do it on your own time. And I always felt like that was faster, this is faster and easier to convey my messages. So, in that type of thinking, I wonder, all right, let's say the human language evolving to that point where we just need those symbols to communicate absolutely what we want? Like, is this the inevitable, is this a point in the path of our evolution of language and communication? Now, I feel like I got pretty heavy with all of this, but that's why we're here, folks. This is to get your mind thinking. Think about where we'll be in 10 years, 20 years. What's going to happen if AI, where's AI going to be? I told you about the computer that they let it learn, and it started developing a language that the code breakers couldn't break. They didn't understand it, and it was that almost instantaneously that much quicker and better at communicating than we were, or not, because we didn't know what it was. It communicated maybe with us or with its own self poorly. maybe great for itself, but poorly with us, or us with them. So anyway, that's why we're here. I just wanted to put these thoughts out there. I've been thinking that I just want to keep hammering these things out, and I hope you guys keep coming back. I feel good about this episode. Like I think I got the point across. I think I communicated what I wanted to communicate about communication. And I'm glad you guys are here. If you're still here at the end point, you made it. I really do appreciate you guys listening, and I'm gonna try to make this about definitely once a month, and I'm shooting for maybe once every 2 weeks. But ideally, I'd like to do this about once a week. I'm gonna start working towards that. That's the working point. And if you guys want to just keep tuning in, I've got many more episodes of mine. I've already just now started touching back on previous episodes, but what I've been thinking lately, what I'm working on, or what I want to call it, or I'm just going to call them expansion packs. And the whole idea is going to be, I'm going to touch back on previous episodes and just convey, either bring in updates, or just add to the knowledge that add to this, bring back the points that I maybe missed, and maybe just add to it. So an expansion pack. So you guys can look forward to that, and I look forward to making them. And I swear, sooner or later, I'm going to have a guest on. You guys, I think you might enjoy that a little better. The back and forth might be a little easier to listen to, because sometimes I think I'm a ranting lunatic. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, and hopefully I'll see you next week. If you guys haven't done it already, please sign into YouTube and subscribe here and click on the notifications, because it'd be great if I didn't have to send out the link every time. Like, the YouTube will automatically send it to you. So as soon as I put this sucker on, you guys will be able to click on it, or come watch it, come listen, and let's make this a regular thing. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll talk to you next week or whenever. Haven't figured out what the next episode will be, but you can definitely know I'll be thinking about it. Alright, so like I said, it's June 3rd. Tomorrow's Independence Day. I'm gonna kick back some beers, not too many beers, and try to do some fireworks with the kids, something. I hope you guys all have a good 4th of July, and tune in next time. Love you guys. Thanks for coming back. Good night, or good morning. Fuck, I'm going to sleep right now, so good night.